Looking back, I think I must have been depressed for a good few months before I realised that I needed any help. It just sort of creeps up on you, doesn't it? I was snapping at John and the kids and bursting into tears for no real reason. It got to be really embarrassing at work because I'd cry at the drop of a hat, which really isn't like me. Don't talk to me about sleeping either. I would wake up at 4 o'clock every morning while everybody else is still asleep, and then I couldn't drop back off to sleep because I'd got stupid things going round and round my head. It was a nightmare. I went to see my GP and she was lovely. She asked me how I was feeling and if I could think of any reason why I was feeling so low. I did feel a bit shocked though when she asked me if I'd had any thoughts about killing myself. I had a few, but I'd never do that to John and the kids. She started me on some antidepressants, Taliprom or something. At first, they seemed to be helping, but then the anxiety started. I felt on edge all the time for no real reason, and the churning stomach and the butterflies, it made it really hard for me to do my job. And I've got a really responsible job, so I've got to keep at the top of my game. I ended up taking some time off work, and I'm never off sick, so I was really worried about getting the sack, and then what would we do financially? John doesn't earn that much. Anyway, you get the picture. I was a bundle of nerves and no use to anybody. I went back to see my GP. She said that she'd refer me to IAPT or something. And I think she said something about talking therapies. I was in such a state I didn't really take it all in. And what's talking therapies when it's at home? To cut a long story short, I didn't hear anything for a couple of weeks. And then I got a phone call from the woman at IAPT giving me an appointment for an assessment. Unfortunately, I wrote the appointment time on an envelope and then I forgot where I'd put it. It wasn't hard for me to do because I was spending most of my time whittling about stupid things. My brain was mush. Next thing I knew, I'd got a letter to say that as I hadn't turned up for my appointment, I'd been referred back to the care of my GP. I just burst into tears. I felt so stupid. But then I started to feel a bit angry. I told my GP that I was finding it really hard to concentrate and remember things. And when I have an appointment at the medical centre, they always text me to remind me. Why can't IAPT do that? Anyhow, I rang the number on the letter and I told the lady that I'd written the appointment on the back of an envelope and I'd genuinely forgotten about it. So she gave me another appointment and I made sure that I didn't forget this one. The woman at IAPT, she was lovely. She seemed to really understand me and didn't make me feel like I was completely losing my marbles. She asked me loads of questions though. Some of them seemed a bit left field, but she did explain why she needed the information, so it wasn't too bad. It was just tiring. Emotionally rather than physically, if you see what I mean. She did say that it would take some time before I would start to really feel better, but that they could actually help me. I was invited to go to a group session to talk about how I could change the way that I think about things. I was really nervous the first time I went. I'd got visions of standing up in front of loads of people saying, "My name's Jade and I'm going bonkers," like you see on the telly with alcoholics. But that couldn't have been further from the truth. It was great to see that there was other people like me with this sort of problem. I didn't have to speak if I didn't want to do, but after a while I started to feel comfortable about sharing things, which isn't like me. I've always thought that talking about yourself were a bit self-indulgent. But it was good to hear about other people's issues too and how they were coping with them. And I've learnt loads that I've used in between sessions. Surprised myself, I think. And I've met a couple of new friends as well, and I'm sure we'll definitely keep in touch. It's been a long journey, but I'm getting there. And I've totally changed the way that I look at things. And I've got an app now on my phone just to do mindfulness every single day. Just 10 minutes. Sounds a bit like a 60s hippie thing, doesn't it? But it seems to help. I hope that when I've finished my group sessions, I can manage to keep practicing all the things I've learnt to stay well. I know that things might happen that could mean that I get depressed again, but if I practice what I've learnt, then I know how to protect myself. And if I do get low, then I'm in a better position to get better. After all, practice makes perfect.